Well, hello there everyone, and welcome back for some more game dev. I hope my audio level is somewhat sensible. As always, let me know if there are some issues with that. I hope you can hear me well. This is going to be a kind of chill end of day programming session sort of thing. I've changed some more settings, trying to optimize my streams for better quality. So changed some more settings, felt like I wanted to test them out, so I'm gonna do a little bit of programming today, and I figured I might as well just stream that. Let's see if we can actually build the game now. So we've been spending most of our time lately on these streams doing content work. Haven't really been programming a whole lot on streams. In particular, I haven't really been doing any sort of gameplay programming, which in the case of Traction Point is Zig programming. Let's see, debug with released game is set to true, and that means that we want to build a debug build of this. Indeed. So let's make sure this builds, and we can actually even do, I think that path is something like depot, and it's just depot maybe. And we can launch directly into the game. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right. All right, all right. Seems to be running fine. What about this audio? The game audio, though. Let's at least bring it down a little bit. Right. So, as you may or may not know, I am basically smack in the middle of trying to establish what will go into pre-alpha 2. And one of the features that I've been sort of wanting to have in that I've been kind of hyping up a little bit, is mod support. And I haven't really been working a whole lot on actual mod support for a while. I made a fun little example mod, which you can find here, the Flying Scout, which is pretty fun. And so this is basically the exact same vehicle, it just happens to have a jetpack. So you can levitate with it. It's actually super tricky to steer in the air. Basically it flies like a, I don't know what. You can't really direct the thrust, you can just thrust. You just apply thrust, and then it kind of goes, well, goes where it goes. It's a fun little thing. I don't want to turn this into a flight simulator, so I kind of deliberately don't make it super easy to steer this thing. But the whole point of this was to create sort of like a test mod that people can then actually get the code to, and then they can experiment with that and maybe use it as a base for their own mods if they want to create something of their own in the game. And that seems to be actually working really well. I'm just flying like a tossed glove here. But actually creating these things is not super easy currently, and there are a number of reasons for that, of course. But one of them is that like the code setup is not really, the code architecture is not really originally made for modding. And so I've been meaning to actually split the game, sort of game library that makes up the game, into two. So we have a game library which gets turned into a DLL. We compile it into a DLL, and then that is what it actually is run. But there would be another library, sort of on the source level, which the game could refer to and read stuff from. But something that the mods could also refer to and use. So sort of like a shared portion of the code that both the game itself and any mods can refer to. And so here we have actually the code for that flying scout thing that you just saw. So it's a flying scout workspace. There's not a whole lot of code actually in this to make this thing work. We have a scout jetpack component, which has a bunch of well, repeated code, if we're being completely honest here. This stuff is not particularly well written. I should probably clean this up before I release it to people. But basically the entire point of the mod is here. Apply main engine thrust just downwards. Thrust direction is Y, which is technically up. But of course, if we apply a force upwards, you can sort of imagine the jet engines thrust going downwards. Then we just have some helper forces here to kind of keep the vehicle from like completely flipping out. Actually, if we remove these things and then we do a Zig build, this should be pretty quick. Even though it does seem to do like a full build now. There we go. Now if we launch the game, now it is like even more difficult to steer this thing. It's almost completely impossible, in fact. So flying scout, and let's just jump to that directly. So now we have just the main thrust. It works pretty nicely if you just fly sort of like directly forwards like this. But if you have a little bit of sort of torque or something going. Oh, you know what? I need to change a path here for that thing to update in the game. Let's quickly do that. I was thinking like, hey, it's still correcting. So I need to basically just build it directly into the folder that the game expects me to put it into for the game to actually read it. So there we go. Now it should be pure chaos. Because as it turns out, having just the main thrust vectors forces applied just makes this super unstable, this car. So now if we get a little bit of an angle to this thing, let's see if we can find a nice rock here to get a little bit of an angle to it. Something like that, and then we just apply this, like it just it does something like this, and it just becomes super difficult to like get any sort of air time if you have a little bit of sort of rotation to the thing. Like this, it kind of flies around like a balloon that you just like poke the hole through, and then it just lets the air out. Like this. Woo. I'm kind of locked out and restabilized there. But anyway, you're gonna get the point. Those forces are there just to make it a little more stable and actually sort of self stabilize over time. So things like this shouldn't happen, where you just like you get this kind of angle and then you just like blow away into the sunset. And then we hit some sort of kill plane there, and yeah, that this terrain doesn't have any collisions yet. But anyway, so this is essentially the whole mod. We have a little bit of more like supporting code here. It's just like declaring some things. And yeah, we need to have a few exported functions so that the engine can actually register the component and actually use it for something. The mod controller, which doesn't really do anything else than just like adds like an entry to the debug menu there, so I can spawn one of those guys. Then we have the thruster flames. Have a little bit of like animation logic here, but that's basically it. The annoying part here is the fact that if we go here to the jetpack component, we have a mod state input, like a mystical int32 here, which is set to 271. And what might that be? So, essentially thrust input, if we are holding down the D-pad up or the up arrow on the keyboard, we essentially fly with the jetpack. So, where does that come from? Well, it comes from the main game. So if we go back to the main, we have means here. Means is of course the sort of data name or project name, code name, whatever you want to call it. For traction point, everything in the code kind of refers to means rather than traction point. And here, if we go to source and we go to app and input, we have something called an input ID. The first game input ID, so the first input ID available to the game as opposed to the tech, is 256. And if you count from 256 onwards, we arrive here at the vehicle mod state. And this is actually, it doesn't actually show it here, but that would be the 271. So if you just count forward, mod state input, vehicle mod state. And vehicle mod state is mapped to the key up and also the D-pad up. And that's kind of how the mod currently reads the input. If you hold down either of these, the mod goes and reads this guy. And that is the input. But that's kind of annoying to have to do something like this. It would be much nicer if we just had this enum, this input ID enum, with this value in some shared library so that the mod could read it from there. And that's kind of what I was thinking we would do today. We would split out a certain amount of code from the game into a library that will be available to modders. And it will contain things like this, like input IDs, so that you can actually read them from a mod. Essentially sort of like constant data, if you will. There's some other stuff as well here, like I think like gameplay types. Here we have some enums as well. And yeah, some temporary stringification. But this sort of stuff, you should be able to put all of this into like a shared library and then be able to actually just, you know, reference that from the mods world probably as well. Yeah, we have the characters in the game actually. Actually like human characters, if you will. Except this guy is not actually human but an AI, but you get my point. This should be relatively easy to do with Zig. Right. So here in the mod build.zig, you have an SDK path. If we go here, and we go like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 backwards, and then bases. And here's the SDK path. So this is essentially like the whole game engine folder. Now, as a modder, you wouldn't necessarily get access to all of this, but you would get access to the important parts. And for example, here we have means. That's the game. So here I am going to create a new folder, and let's call this means lib or means library. All right. And the means library needs to look Actually, I wonder if I should put it in Zig libs. Should probably actually go in Zig libs. Yeah, we have some examples here of what sort of like a Zig library in the context of basis should look like. So let's maybe move it there. That's probably a better place for it. And then we can copy stuff from fuzz, for example. That's a fuzzy logic library. You can see all of them here on the right as well. Let's do that. So what do we need? We need to build Zig. I might be wondering, why do we need to build Zig for a Zig library that we're essentially not going to build on its own? We're only going to build it as part of another project. The reason we need to build Zig is really because the Zig language server kind of expects there to be a build.zig, so that we get all the auto-completions and everything working. And I think these projects tend to have like a main file. So game helper library GHL has one that looks like this. And Fuzz has one that looks like this. So we should probably add a similar one for our new meanslib library. So let's create a source folder here. And inside of it, I'm going to create meanslib.zig. And then from this, we're going to take it sort of from the do the rest of the stuff here in VS Code directly. But let's close this Flying Scout or just minimize it for now. Let's work here in the actual main workspace. And I think I want to add something like this. Actually, we can take like that, the first one there. We'll just call it meanslib and means no, not that, not here, meanslib. Yes, I trust it. And here we have the stuff. So the root source file, that would be meanslib, meanslib.zig. And then there's sort of like an interesting question here. That should be meanslib, obviously. It's an interesting question here. What do we actually need? What do we depend on? So, you know, if we have currently we have means, which is the game, and it depends on basis, which is the game engine, and then it depends on like Goofy, which is the UI library, and it depends on Timbre, which is the sound library, and so on. All of this. Now if we have means lib as the library, it can depend on basis, and it can potentially essentially depend on all of these guys. Not that it necessarily should, but it can. It cannot depend on means. Like this won't work, because means actually needs to depend on means lib, if that makes sense. And then if we make a so this guy should, I guess, technically, you know, be before that, right? And then you make a mod, which is like my mod. It can also depend on these guys here. It depends on means lib. It can't link directly to means. It doesn't really link to anything, but it can't refer to that. But it can refer to means lib if we make means lib available, and then it can refer to all of the like game engine level things. So I think for now we're just gonna leave the sole kind of just gonna leave the sole dependency as basis here. Not add anything more than that. That was weird. I got some kind of disconnect in OBS. Let's hope that the stream is back and in good shape. Does seem to be a good connection again, but that's a bit weird. Okay, anyway, mean sleep. So, in here, we'll want to probably take... Let's see what we actually have. We don't need a whole lot of things. We will probably need, like, not even necessarily standard, but we probably need bases. Actually, perhaps not even that. Depends on how we want to do this. Let's actually just start moving things over, I would say. And so I spoke about this input.sig. I think this is going to be one of the most important ones. And here we can see we're referring to means here. I wonder if that is going to be an issue. No, it is not, because we're not actually using this this import for anything. So let's just get rid of that. We are, however, referring to GHL. Okay, so that's interesting. If we want to have the logic that like maps the input here, then we actually do need to refer to GHL, which should be fine. That should be completely fine. Do we use the standard std for anything? No, so we can just really get rid of that. Basis, I'm sure we'll use a lot of stuff from. Yeah, that is good. And so GHL does some input mapping as well. It has like standard input for skipping a cinematic, for example, key escape or gamepad B. It's just standard stuff for skipping a cinematic, as most gamers would expect. And then we have some sort of dummy input here with a comment on why that is. But we don't really need to think about that currently. Anyway, that means that we do need to add GHL to the dependencies in just a second. But before we do that, let's just start actually adding things here. So let's do I need like subfolders here? Maybe not. We can just do input.zig and essentially copy over this entire thing to here. There's some commented out stuff here as well. Not sure if this is really needed. We can keep it around for now. And this should give us problems now if we try to actually use this, because we don't have GHL here. So we have input context IDs and we have input IDs. And the idea is that input contexts are sort of like these modes of input that you can enable and disable. Then they are essentially pushed onto a stack, and contexts that sit on top of other contexts kind of override the things, right? So, you know, in a general in-game controls context, I think there's only really like the pause, isn't there? Yeah. Toggle game pause is the only thing that gets mapped to anything in the general in-game contexts. And so it also maps to a key escape or gamepad button start. But if you then push one of those cinematic contexts, when the cinematic starts, we push the cinematic context on top of the general one. And that means that if you press escape while you're in a cinematic, then you actually just skip the cinematic. You don't try to, you know, toggle this pause game thing here. That's sort of how it works. Right. So how does means then? Go to means build.zig, which is significantly more complex. This is the game's build script. It gets the GHL. Oh, and GHL then requires timbre. Well, isn't that nice? So now we actually already immediately we get like a whole chain of these dependencies. This is not something I really remember that I need to do, but hey, it shouldn't be super tricky. So we need timbre, which is the audio system, and we need GHL, which has those GHL inputs that we looked at All right, so let's do timbre first then. Let's move that to the side and look at this again. Move that to the other side. So basis module, right? Here we're using just like the standard build create module function. Here I actually have a create library module. And why do I have that? Is that a good idea? Maybe it is. I think it probably will be when we start adding more of these things. Actually, I think both of these. I should perhaps move these to some sort of build helper something script, but don't have that currently. Then we have an add modules, which adds all the modules to the main one. You can see that this thing here, the basis module, is exactly the same as this basis module thing here. We have some include paths, which we don't do here in means lib currently. Maybe we should. But we'll see. So let's copy this entire thing. In essence, we copied all of these. This is just the main build function, so we do that. But then we actually don't include the things that we don't use yet. Just to keep. We do need timbre actually. We don't need Nemo, we don't need Merlin. Nemo is like mission scripting. Merlin is particle systems. VHL is vehicle helper library. I'm probably gonna need that eventually, but we'll see. So we don't need trampoline, we don't need Goofy. Timbre we do need, not Nemo, not Merlin, and not Fuss. Like so. And then probably before I release the modding support, I will do like a cleanup pass on these so they're not so horribly messy. But okay. This looks good, and now we basically just need to add the modules. Right. Build options module. Yeah, okay. Build as mod or build as WASM. Basis build options. Right, to remember what this all means. Right, so this expects the build system, it expects the main module, and it expects a build options module. The build options module is created here for the game. And we can build, in particular we build the mods as WebAssembly modules that we then load at runtime so that we get nicely sandboxed mod logic. And then indeed we have this build as mod thing here, which sets some sort of options in the game engine, but I don't think we necessarily need those. If we just, comment that guy out and then we comment this guy out, I think we only need to set that in the game itself. So let's hope that is the case. Root module add import basis. We are already doing that. We're doing. Where are we doing it? We're doing it here. Add import basis. Yes. Okay. So we can actually just remove all of that and then do add modules B and what was it actually called? It's lib.root module. Yeah, there we go. So B and that, right? Variable is never mutated. That may be the case. All right. So this now, if we go back to input, wonder if this actually doesn't seem to find it yet, but it might be that we will have to actually import this. So basically what we need to do is we need to do const basis is import basis, because that is most likely going to be used everywhere. Let's do like a separator there. I'm gonna do pub const input equals import input.zig, like that. And now we should be able to essentially really just start using this in the game. Which means that we can kind of really just get rid of this guy. But of course, if we get rid of this guy, then, you know, the game won't actually build anymore, which is sad. But I think luckily I am exposing it like this. Pub const input equals import app input zig. But instead here, if we actually import the means lib here, this won't work yet, but you should be able to do something like this, right? Just like forward declare it here as input, but actually what we mean is meanslib.input, which, you know, refers to a file that looks exactly the same, thanks to Zig's powerful module system. That should just work. And so if we do meanslib module, create library module with the path ziglibs meanslib source meanslib.zig, and then basis module is actually just basis module, yeah, exactly like so. And then we do like a copy of that meanslib module, and then we call that meanslib, like so. Right. So here then, we don't need to necessarily kind of expose meanslib here, because anything that requires meanslib can import it directly. And what we can do meanslib here without any pub, and then import meanslib. I'm hoping this will work. Now we should be able to do meanslib.input, which evidently kind of doesn't build yet, because I probably have some mistakes somewhere. So let's see if we can figure out what that is. Zig build. Okay, well here's the first one. I probably forgot to pass it the build. Yes. There we go. The build system or whatever. Okay, now a module named GHL available within module meanslib. That thing. Let's see why is that? What's that? That would be add import GHL module. Okay. I kind of think it should be available, especially if basis is, right? That is available, and we make it available here, and this is where we make GHL available. So I think that should be completely fine, but evidently it's not. However, let's remove the Zig cache and do a full build just to be sure. But it's probably not that. It is indeed not that. Right, so let's do this in the meantime. Just comment out these guys here, because this is like a super minor thing. And let's make sure that the game can actually refer to the meanslib now. And then when that works, we'll figure out the GHL stuff. Okay, so that works. That's neat. So here we should now be able to go into means, which is kind of like the main file for the game. Should be able to go meanslib dot, and look at that, we have input, and now we can go input context and blah blah blah. Okay, so that now works. That's neat. That is neat, which means that we should be able to delete this guy. Yep. Go away and still build. It should work. And it like nothing changed as far as Zig was concerned, so of course it worked. Okay. So now then. Can we timbre? Can we do this? I'm not sure it will actually evaluate it if we're not using it for something. It does seem to build at least. Maybe I'll just assign this to something. Yeah, it doesn't really find it. So I wonder if there's some funkiness there with all of those includes. Basis dot. Yeah, not even that works. Okay. Okay. So am I not actually doing this correctly now? Let's see, lib root module. It's passed there. And that's lib module, and lib module gets the imports added. That is a little strange, I must say. So GHL has its own input.zig, which is very short, but still, and it has an add inputs function. And then we expose input here like this, and that means that here in this meanslib input we should be able to go ghl.input, because this is the thing that was just exposed to us, and then call add inputs. Yeah, that should work. That should work just fine. Yeah, we don't do any like install artifacts or anything like that, do we? Actually, we do. We do b.install artifact lib, and I bet we do that everywhere. Yeah. So let's make sure these paths are actually correct then. So if we start from basically here, right? Let's do reveal in File Explorer, and we go one up. Right, this is the reason it doesn't work. right? Because this sits in the same folder as the game helper library. But on the other hand, we need to go one more to find bases, which is like here. So these need to be like that. And here we can either do the same, we can go 2 steps up, or we can quite simply just go. Yeah, that needs to be 2 steps up. This can essentially just be 1 step up and then get rid of Zig libs. But I think I'm gonna just for the sake of consistency, I'm gonna use the same sort of way of accessing these for every module. Let's see if that works. Still some issues. Messed that up, didn't I? Yeah, the error message is weird though. Like, shouldn't we get like, if we just add some like crap to the end of that, we should get like we should get an error message about that, but we don't actually get. Well, Zig is still pre-release and all of that. But we do create library module, give it a path, root source file. Yeah, I guess it just like it doesn't really care if that path exists or not. It just blindly accepts it and tries to use it. But here at least now, if we go to ziglibs and meanslib, go 2 up, then basis zig source. Then we can find the basis 1, and if we go 2 up and then ziglibs game helper library, that's where we can find that. So now those paths should at least be correct there. Adds an existing module to be used with import. Well, this was not how it was supposed to go. Right, but sometimes that's how it is with these things. Can't be helped. If we go here and we do basis dot, yeah, now we get all the stuff. So now the basis import is working. Okay, that's cool. What about GHL? Yeah, look at this. We even get GHL auto includes now all of a sudden. If we change that to GHL2, now we don't. Now ZLS is like, what do you mean GHL2? That's not a thing. But GHL dot, yeah. So this now clearly works. Okay, so now I wonder, why does the compiler not like that? Did I change something? I did not. Could this be a case of adding this twice? and Zig kind of not really dealing with that all that well. Alright, sorry, I had to take a phone call there. Right, so what I was thinking is we add a module to meanslib, which is GHL. We also add the same module here in the main game build file. Does that somehow not work? Shouldn't really be an issue because like we've already been including it shouldn't be a problem now that I think about it, because like because this guy, for example, has been adding the timbre module simultaneously as the main game, so that should work. Okay. How annoying. But okay, let's try a different way. So we need GHL. We need to add it to the library module. And we pass it here, lib.root module. Okay. So now if we remove that, yeah, we get an auto fix there. Now we should no longer be able to do GHL. GHL here. No, it doesn't work. So ZLS is clearly like picking up on what we're trying to do. For some reason, the Zig compiler doesn't like it. So instead, what we're going to do is something like this. We're going to do timbre module, and then add it directly to. Actually, we can copy all of that and add it to build. So, like so, and then we just call this GHL, which of course stands for Game Helper Library, and we add it here, and we do GHL. We need the basis module. The basis module is created here. That's annoying. But okay, then we just do it here instead. So GHL module. Just comment that out for now, so we don't get any name clashes. Doing essentially the same thing, except we're not using this create library module function. Now this thing has worked in the past. Yeah, we got the same thing. How peculiar. Undo that. How peculiar. Well, I wasn't expecting this to be an issue when I planned to do some programming tonight. And sometimes that's how these things go. Would be nice if you could actually debug these build scripts a bit better. That way we could actually get like get a value here for this GHL module and see, hey, is this something sensible now? Wow, that's really strange. And again, ZLS has picked up on our intents here. We can probably even jump to these. Yeah, we can just jump to the functions here. So why is Zig itself not happy with this? What we can do is this. Take all of that. Copy it. We need, how do we copy? Copy like just the normal way. And then we do a little bit of figuring out here. So we have GHL. Depreciated basis ziglibs ghl.zig. Yes. And yeah, that's everything. That's really everything. So I don't suppose we need to somehow import it from here, do we? Input sig doesn't like that, and then it's like, okay, well, fine, you don't like it. Actually, we need to make it public now because we removed the other one. Ah, that's annoying. Wow, I'm kind of out of ideas here. Gonna just need to test things. It's gonna make absolutely certain I don't have any stupid mistakes here. So we create a basis module, a root source file. If we take this away, take basis away. Actually, we don't do any of that. We just comment out this thing, right? Then we remove the cache and everything. Now what I expect to happen is that it can't find bases either. Right? It still, however, complains about the GHL stuff, which is somehow very bizarre because like we're importing bases above it. So why would it actually accept that if it doesn't accept GHL then? Or is it just because basis has been included in the main game, and that is why it kind of works? Is that why? It's very strange though. It doesn't care about that, and it might not care about this if you know we don't use it for anything. Now it doesn't mind that it's there, but we probably can't use it. It will be cranky again. Yeah. Now module named GHL. It only complains if we actually use this thing. Very strange. Very strange. Unknown. Yeah, now we can see that, like, again, ZLS has no way of telling us that basis has stuff underneath it. If we add this modules, add modules back, should be able to get that. It just takes, yeah, now it figured it out. So now it found everything again, and it even finds the GHL stuff. But the building doesn't work. How bizarre. How bizarre. So maybe we should like remove all of this to make it as simple as possible. In fact, I think this is all fine. I think that's all good. We can maybe even bring those back if we want to add them later. I think this is all good because we get this and we get this, right? So what we might need to do. Oh, I think I know what this is. I think I know what this is, don't I? Yeah, I know what this is. Why didn't you tell me? I'm being stupid here. So what the reason this worked when we didn't have the GHL stuff is because we are actually giving it the basis module here, right? And all of these libraries require just the basis module, except Game Helper module, which requires basis and timbre, right? That means that if meanslib module requires GHL, we need to specify all of those. Meanslib module should have this same path, like so. It gets basis, it gets timbre because GHL requires both of those, and then it gets GHL like so. Now, I bet this will build. I bet this will build. So it actually wasn't a problem with the build script after all, or at least not the build script in meanslib. It was a problem with the build script here, right? So when you are including something in the game, you need to include it with the root file path, but you also need to give it all of its dependencies. So it directly depends on basis, and it directly depends on GHL, but GHL directly depends on timbre and basis. So we need to pass all of them here. Yeah, okay. Okay, I see. There we go. So now then, did I make some stupid changes here just to test things out? I don't think I did. This should all be really good. Okay, excellent. So now then, we have means, and means uses meanslib. And meanslib provides us with inputs like this. So now we should just be able to run this completely normally, and I should be able to use my inputs, and I can do that. Just gamepad or mouse, everything works just as normal. Okay, cool. So now we can go to our mod Flying Scout, and we have again, if we go to the jetpack component, we have this annoying thing here. Like what is this? What is that? 271. And we wanna replace that with the stuff that comes from the meanslib library. So first of all, let's add meanslib here to this workspace. Like so. And then to the mod library, we add meanslib in much the same way as we did to the other ones. So here I actually have like a build utils, because I don't want you guys to have to worry about this. This is the code that you would get as a sort of a starter, I don't know, mod template. If you want to make a mod, you just basically tell it where to find the SDK path. You give it the library name of the mod that you're making. Root source file probably doesn't need to change ever. And then you can build it to like the sort of official build output folder, or you can just like do like I have here, just want to iterate quickly, just completely directly build it into the folder that the game will then load it from, which can be very handy. And then the rest of the stuff is essentially just boilerplate. Build utils has this create mod library, which goes and adds all the things to it. So we will add the same meanslib stuff here as we did for the main game. So that goes there. And then we need that one. We'll put it there. Yeah, that looks good. So out of the box, if you build a mod, you just get access to everything essentially immediately. So const meanslib is import meanslib, and with a little bit of luck, this should momentarily. Oh, CLS language server crashed. Okay then. Oh. I had the path there. CLS is not particularly sort of it's not perhaps quite as robust as it should be with these paths being wrong. Let's see, do we get any sort of like auto completion here? Not yet. Do we get like no? I didn't get any. Just crashed again, did it? Self dot. Actually do get. That's probably just the old message there. So meanslib doesn't give us anything yet. What's that? I think that looks good, at least correct. Let's see what happens if we build this now. Oh. Oh, right. Yeah, this stuff looks a little different in the mods API. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's clear that. We can clear the Zig cache. We don't have that. Okay, that's fine. Let's just build it. So that now builds. Good. Now if we go here, now with a little bit of luck, we should have you know, ZLS actually meanslib dot. Okay, not yet. Yeah, this stuff doesn't come easy today. You have to work to please the Zig gods today. As well as the CLS gods. So we give it the build object with the SDK path. Give the path to the root file and give it the imports. Yeah. That looks pretty good, I think. That looks pretty good, I think. I don't know why it doesn't work. I don't think I've had this many issues, this much trouble getting my Zig code to build for in like a, I don't know, for a year or so. Right, so now with restarting, now all of that works. And now that works as well. Okay. So means lib.input. Okay, here we go. Okay, ZLS was just being less than helpful. So mod state input, we don't really need that, but we can of course forward declare it. I think, however, that we will quite simply just get rid of that, and instead I can do means lib.input.input id dot mod equal mod state, and now I should be able to build this. Okay. Finally, I think we're done with this setup work. That did not go as planned, shall we say? But of course, it was just my bad all along. All right, and here we have the input, and now of course I know this is not really visible to you guys, but we should be able to do something completely different. We should be able to what should we do? Acceleration, vehicle acceleration, right? Now that's actually not a state. We need to actually look at what is a state. So it needs to be registered with this state thing here, as the vehicle mod state input actually is. So what do we have? What kind of states do we have? In fact, let's not do this. Let's do something more easy to see what I mean. Let's quite simply mod or map this to another key here in the library, such as key, I don't know, I don't think I'm using that for anything. Now if I build and run, and then we set that as the avatar. Now if I hold down I, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Alright. In about a year, when this game launches, you should remind me of that one time when on the stream when nothing worked. What did I do? Map keyboard input. To key I. I don't know why that doesn't work now. It doesn't. It doesn't. Key up. That does work. Let's do, I don't know, M. Is it just something with I that I'm like, it might be overridden somewhere else. Is that the case actually? No. It doesn't seem to be. It's still on the up button. So that All right, we are back. Sorry about that, everyone. It seems like my router crashed. On top of everything else, this has to be one of the most misfortunate streams I've ever had. And we probably lost almost all viewers, but maybe we'll get some of you back. I don't know what it is with today, but nothing works. So I had to run and reboot my router and my 5G modem. But we are back. I don't know exactly. Hey Elton, glad to have you. Maybe we can amass a few more. Yes, I don't know exactly at which point the stream cut out. But basically what I was doing right around the time that happened was I realized I can indeed change the inputs to whatever we want. So we had it set to key I, and this does work. The important part is that if you make a change to this new means library that we created, you need to build both the game and you need to build the mod or mods if you have several of them. So, because yes, indeed, this function is run by the game, it's not run by the mod. So the mod can quite simply just read this input enum here and use these values, and we no longer need to have any sort of strange integer 271. We could just get rid of that, and that's neat. That's what I wanted to achieve with all of this. And instead, just refer to meanslib. But the important part is that we also build the game, because the game is the thing that will actually run this function and map these things. So there we go. Okay. And now we can run this. And now I probably... Okay, I did rebuild it. Yes, so now we can fly like we used to normally. And that's pretty neat. But we need to probably add a whole bunch more to that library eventually. So one thought that I had at some point was that I would actually open source a significant number of the game object components of the game and put them in meanslib, and then that way mods could actually access those. However, that won't work because the mods are compiled to WASM modules, so that we don't get a lot of malware and other crap in the mods. That's kind of like the whole idea of why we're compiling them to WASM modules. And of course, WASM modules are not allowed to execute memory that's outside of the WASM module, which means that we can't get a pointer to a component that is created by the game and then access that from a mod, because that would mean that we would be accessing memory outside of the WASM module of the mod. That's not allowed. I just realized that I haven't exported this level since I painted some more stuff last night. So let's just quickly export it. So unfortunately, I can't just throw a bunch of components there and expect the mod to be able to get a pointer to those and access them if we are compiling the mods as WASM. We can do that if we are compiling the mods as shared libraries like native code essentially. And that is also supported. I kind of don't want that to be the standard way of delivering mods. So if we go here to the mod manager, which is for now it's just an ImGUI window. You can see we have just one currently. This is the Flying Scout. Status is loaded. If we open the settings here, we can allow unsandboxed mods to run, and that means that we can just build the mod to a DLL and run it. If we look at the mod info, we can see that this lib type for this Flying Scout is actually a WASM module. So it is sandboxed. So we can run this even though we haven't allowed unsandboxed mods. And that's kind of the nice thing about that system. But there are other things that we can add there. Like we looked at previously, we have things like, let's see, gameplay, world, for example. So world has things like the locations in the world. We don't have a whole lot of them yet. We have the refinery intro and the refinery plane. And then we have the refinery lift station. These are essentially in the same level. And if you played the pre-alpha 1, this is the demo mission. We're loading here, that's why it says demo mission. This is stuff that we should be able to add to mean sleep. And we even have some functionality here. That's completely fine. The mod can run that functionality, just essentially gets a copy of it. So that sort of stuff is completely fine to run. We just can't get, we can't have an object in the game have a component and then get a pointer to that component from a mod if that mod is a WASM module. Anyway, I think this is the sort of stuff that we should probably add to meanslib. This guy does import Nemo here, so is Nemo actually used for anything? Yeah, it's not. It's just it's called get character Nemo path. Nemo is of course the mission scripting system that I have, sort of a node-based mission scripting system. Looks a little like this. Mission elevator. Yeah, here we have essentially the mission, the whole mission playable right now in pre-alpha 1, and the flow is kind of set up like this. And here we have this character or car / characters narrator, and then all the other ones as well. And we have them here as well. So we should probably just take this world.zig and put it into meanslib as well. Let's do that. Let's just copy that. Can we put it there? We can. Okay, cool. And then we need to get rid of Nemo. Do we need means for anything? Yeah, we don't do that either. See, I have a whole lot of unused imports here. Quite simply because we don't refer to that stuff. We just declare everything here up front. And so if we have moved world there, once again we can delete it from the game, and I should be able to forward declare it here. But I wonder if do we want to do that, or do we just actually want to do I want to just refer to meanslib directly? So campaign manager, for example, means.world. How many places do we actually use that? It's used in a few. Yeah. But it might just be nicer to start doing this instead. Meanslib is sort of like the whole sort of shared idea of everything that goes into means. So here we would have pub const world is import world.zig, like that, right? Means lib means lib, and then that would be means lib.world.character. Yeah, that might be a pretty nice way to do it. Oh, we have more here in the same file. Means lib yeah, this was the kind of stuff that I was thinking we would do today, not get stuck on build issues and then internet issues for a couple of hours, almost hour and a half. Well, sometimes that just happens. In fact, here we can do means.world means lib.world. Alright. And now we should be able to build again. What? Barks, yeah. I don't know why you are expecting there to be barks.zig means lib. It says means there. Oh, it's that thing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can get rid of that. That's fine. There we go. And so now we have world stuff there. The game is of course built as a native library. I can actually build the game as a WASM module as well, but it doesn't run currently. I can get into the main menu. That's about it. And that was only after some significant work put into it. Actually, it was never really my intention to like run the game as a WASM library, but you can, because it's like the game engine supports running WASM modules in much the same way as it supports running DLLs or like dynamically linked libraries. But yeah, the idea is that the game will be a DLL on Windows and the mods will be WASM. And then if you want to ship a native mod, then you can do that. You just need essentially the user to be, you need the user to allow that on their own machine to run native mods. Hey Wookie, welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah, this was a pretty good time to join the stream actually. I've been having all kinds of internet issues and whatnot. Finally, sort of just got started with the thing I actually wanted to do. All right, I had another one that I was thinking we would move. What was it? I think it was something with gameplay types, maybe. Yeah, this one at least can be moved to means lib. Do we actually, is there like a forward declaration of it here? Gameplay types. Yeah, so we probably have like means.gameplay types. Gameplay types is a pretty stupid name though, if we're being honest. I mean, what is a gameplay type? It probably just refers to anything that has to do with games or gameplay. So the vehicles here, we have the avatar roles, right? So you can be a driver, you can control the cargo crane, the attractor crane, which is actually doesn't exist yet, but it will very soon. And then the gripper arm, and then with some interaction stuff. Yeah, these are all gameplay related things. I guess we can just call them gameplay types as well. So again, let's copy that guy to there. Does it use standard for anything? No. Just my sort of my habit of including, and we don't use bases either, right? We can just get rid of them both. I think I'm gonna leave bases there because I'm gonna add a lot of stuff to this. Actually, no, let's not do that. There's really no reason. I can add it there if I need to later. And then we need to make it available, of course. The whole internet runs like crap lately. All these AI scrapers and other shit. I miss the old good internet. Yeah. Yeah, to some extent I miss that too. I don't know what this was today. I recently updated and upgraded my internet connection from a crummy old 4G connection to a 5G connection. Still flying wireless here for probably another year or so until we get fiber to our house. But the 5G has been really excellent, and I got some good feedback in the last stream that particularly, you know, playing the game, and that was a level design stream, so it was much more visual than this one. So I got some feedback there that the stream looks better. And I have a feeling that it was like my router today, so my whatever firewall device actually just sort of died on me or something. I think that is what happened, but it's a little unclear. So, you know, these things happen. Means lib. Can't be helped. Right, means lib gameplay types. Yeah, okay. So let's be a little more clever about this now. Let's do means lib is import means lib. And we copy that. And then we put it into every file that's going to be using it. Yeah, the nice thing with this stuff that we've been doing now today is that the modding system gets tested properly. And that was indeed the whole idea of making the jetpack car. It's a bit of a silly thing. I'm sure you agree, but it's really very handy to have to sort of dog food the whole modding system. Right. And I think that should fix all of the occurrences. And I'm sure some of the stuff that we are now moving over to meanslib aren't necessarily things that are super handy to have in the mod. But some of them are. The inputs, obviously. Inputs obviously are a very good thing. You don't have to have any sort of mystical sort of constants. And instead you can just refer to it. But some of these things aren't necessarily things that, you know, are gonna be needed all that much by mods such as like get world location by level path, but at least it's here now. I'm kind of thinking I would move things that I can over to meanslib. You can even have like localization keys and things like that, but we'll see if I actually move that stuff over. I might not. Game messages. This we probably want to move there. This can be a very, very handy thing to be able to listen to if we want to do some more exotic things. So kind of similarly to how the inputs work. In the inputs we had input contexts and then we had input IDs. And input contexts kind of group input IDs together. So all the free camera input IDs, for example, they go here under the free camera controls input context. Game messages work much in the same way. We have game message categories and then we have game messages. And all the messages of the UI category get grouped together and then registered here. So very similar sort of deal in that sense. And then of course you can listen to these messages if you want to, and you can do that in a mod as well. Perfectly natural hardware problem, yeah. Yeah. That's my guess. It's a little unclear to me still. Right, but let's move these guys over, and I think this is going to be the most involved of all of this. But let's not stress about that. Let's just get it done. So again, I don't think we're using STD for anything here. Basis we are actually. So that's fine. App context is probably a basis type as well. Yes, basis app context. I'll just leave that there for now. No need to remove every single one necessarily. So meanslib again. Game messages. Import game messages. Hello, Poseidon. Welcome back. Welcome. I'm a little scared of removing this, but let's just go. Let's just go and see what happens. So now if we do means.game_messages, I'm probably gonna have 71. Okay, so maybe we don't want to actually change all of these, and this is where this is the thing I just love about the Zig module system, and the way that you can just sort of declare something as something else, and that's that. So we don't do game messages, instead we just do meanslib.game messages, and boom, that's everything we need to do. Zig build. Now it should build. So I think some of these things are just kind of natural to do like this. Maybe at some point I will go in and actually kind of make means lib be sort of explicitly referred to, but maybe we don't do that right now. So what do we have other things here? We have the app. We don't want to move that. We don't have the localization, as I talked about earlier. The barks one. What about the barks one? It's not something we could actually move. It does refer to Nemo though. Except it does not. We can get rid of that. And we should still be able to build. Yeah, barks are like if you play a mission and you use the communications radio to contact someone, you get barks, and they are essentially like let's see if I do this, and then we can just load into the game here. So now that we're playing an actual campaign mission, we have these two vehicles here. We have the scout and we have the mother vehicle, and they can communicate over the comm radio, which I can't enable yet because the input context hasn't been pushed, as we just discussed. But about now I can, and you get this like well, we have a little bit of mission dialogue going on here at the same time, actually, as these barks. But if you just ask the mother to, you know, move here, the mother says be right there. Yeah, those are very placeholdery and not the kind of out of character for these characters. What do you got? Be right there. What do you got? Be right there. It just happens to randomly select the same things over and over. What do you got? On my way. We have a few different ones that we can select between. And these are barks. I guess some of them might be kind of interesting to have in a mod. And one of the buttons on this controller is kind of breaking down. That's why sometimes when I press this, it just immediately goes away. I'm kind of blaming my controller for that currently. Might of course be a bug in the game, I don't know. Yep, on my way. That sort of stuff. So yeah, we could move the barks there. Not necessarily the most pressing. Let's have a look at some other stuff that we have. Bark manager, campaign manager, interaction, gameplay. We don't really want to move those. Material effects. Now this might be an interesting thing to move there. The problem is that this is, or it's not really a problem, but the thing is that this is very much work in progress. I think this might actually be something that we might want to move there later on. The idea of this is that you should be able to play different particle systems based on the material, obviously, I guess. The tire dust particle effect, for example, we have a few different ones, default and the gravel. And some of you may have seen that the smoke, that sort of cartoon dusts effect changes color, and that's just because we have a few different ones here with like different colors, tire dust color. But yeah, that's not really anything we need to necessarily move there. Moving transform parent manager. I don't think we want to move that there either. Save game data, no. Tarfex controller, no. Zone manager, probably not either. These are sort of gameplay systems. I don't want to move them to the library. Then we have rendering. So the render object is something that we actually probably want to move there. The render object is just like a wrapper around a bunch of objects that you typically need if you want to display something on the screen. So you need a mesh, and you need a material, and you need perhaps even a material resource. You can create materials at runtime, but quite often you need a material resource. And then you need to attach it to a scene node, so we have that there, and create a mesh instance. Actually, the mesh instance is the one that gets attached to the scene node. And then you might have a game object pointer or not. And with recent versions of Zig, we should actually just be able to do this. This wasn't possible previously, but now we can just do dot something, and this can also be just dot null, and it's not a function anymore, or it is a function. Init null is a function, but null is just a constant. So that's neat, and yeah, we should be able to move this to meanslib. Because I can definitely see the use for a mod writer to be able to use this to add something to the screen. And again, we can just do this like dot null. Right? I think so. Mesh instant pointer, scene node pointer. Seems to work. Rightio. So let's move this guy over. Render object. Actually, should we move this to like the game helper library? That might be an even better place for it, because there's really nothing traction point specific about this per se. Also doesn't require a standard library, so let's just not have it. But basis is used all over the place. Yeah, I kind of think that this should perhaps just be a GHL level thing. So let's move it there. Render object, copy that into GHL. So we are making the module available. We're also making the type. Actually, it probably needs to go here. Const render object, like so. And again, we probably have it here. Yes. Let's take that away, and then we can do means.render object and find that. And this would now need to be GHL. And of course, the mod can access GHL as well, so it should work just fine. That's sort of the idea. And in fact, I could have used this when I did the flying scout for the jetpacks, the jet engines. I could have used the render object, but it wasn't available to me because I hadn't done this. And it wasn't the end of the world. I just had to write a little more code. So if we look here at the let's see, flying. No, it's actually the flames. Yeah, that was the flames, not the engines themselves. The engines are just a mesh component that I just added, slapped on there, and called it a day. But here I basically need to, acquire the material resources. I need to acquire the mesh resources, create meshes out of them, or get the shared mesh from the resource, create a dynamic mesh instance, attach that mesh instance, and all of that. And render object handles most of that, so I could have used it here. I'm just creating a render object and enabling it. Okay. Save all. Let's do a remove cache, clear the output, and build. Let's see what we have. Okay, and again, yeah, we have that. We need to take some of those things away when we do move them to GHL, or move them elsewhere, shall we say? Okay, that's neat. So what then? Screen fade controller? Probably not. Probably not want that. Triangle lines. Triangle lines might be interesting. This is there's something that you can use if you want to essentially use triangles to create like lines or line-like graphics. So for example, the little circle that appears on the ground under the cargo crane for the mother vehicle is rendered using triangle lines. And that could be kind of handy to have. So if we put a mother here, switch to that, and then do cargo crane, you have this white little circle there, which kind of shows you what is directly underneath the magnet. So that kind of stuff, I guess, could be kind of neat to be able to create from a mod. And I wonder if we should move that to GHL as well, actually, and not meanslib. Let's have a look at it. There we go, triangle lines. So again, we don't use standard for anything. Let's take it away. Basis is used all over the place. Serialized size. Right, we're writing to a stream. I wonder if this will actually work. It probably actually will. Yeah. It actually will. This is kind of neat, actually. Another one of those things that, like, Zig is very nice when you can do things like this. We have a size here, which is a constant. But at compile time, we determine that constant by creating a buffer that's 128 bytes large, creating a stream to write into that buffer. then setting up a vertex format with some data. We're pushing that vertex format to the stream, and then we, as the result of all of this, just get the cursor position, and then we assign that to the constant. That's so nice that you can do that. C++ can't do that. But yeah, triangle point. I don't remember why this needs to be serialized. Is it because we are? Yeah, we are actually getting the stream from the mesh. Isn't that how it works? Yeah. So we got the vertices, and this is just a U8, so a byte buffer essentially. Well, this is kind of neat, but it won't actually work with WASM. Again, the same problem that I spoke about previously. If we have a WASM module, then it can't actually read or write outside of the memory allocated by the WASM module. So, yeah, I guess it kind of depends on how we actually return, how we get this data from the backend. Mesh submesh get vertices. I bet that, yeah, this is not actually implemented for WASM yet. But this can be implemented for WASM. We can allocate a buffer here in Zig code, which means that it will be actually part of the WASM stuff. And then let the user mess around with that and then copy it back. We can do that, but it's currently not actually done. Oh well. Hey Matt, welcome back. Today I am reorganizing the gameplay code a little bit to make modding easier. That is the plan, at least. So I'm essentially splitting the gameplay code, which has previously been all in one, or not even just the gameplay code, but the game code. Just previously been in a single Zig project out into another library, so that you can then include that library in both the game itself, but also in mods, which already allowed me to make the Jetpack Scout example mod code a little nicer. But yes, let's move triangle lines to GHL as well. Like so. And again, we just go here and we do pubconst triangle lines, import triangle lines. I think that's probably all we need to do here, and then in means so this shouldn't be used in that many places. No, it's in fact not, which means that I would quite simply just take that away, I think, and it needs to be taken away from there as well. And then we can just do means lib. No, actually it's GHL triangle lines. Like that. Yeah, so the way you use that, and this is the interaction area visuals. Yeah, that's another place that uses triangle lines, those sort of yellow glowy things that you can drive onto and press something and then something happens. So you basically create like a list of those vertices that we have, triangle line points, and you add them somewhere, and then at some point later on, when you want to actually visualize that, you call add multi-point line, or what was the other one? add line. So this just creates a line from point to another point, or you can do a multi-point one, which just has a bunch of points, so you can specify whether it should be a closed loop. Which those interaction areas are. There are like a rectangle with like cut off corners, basically. And then you just render the mesh normally, and it will figure everything else out automatically, which is pretty neat. Okay, that would be that, and we can get rid of that. Then we have some third-party stuff, but let's do the order here. Continue what we did here. So it was under the screen fade controller, yeah. Was the triangle lines. So game flow helper, I don't think this is, yeah, this is just not stuff that really anyone should be interested in. AI. AI is kind of like its own thing. It has like a one extra level of indirection here. I don't think I will want to move this outside of the main game, at least right now. Maybe some of these items could be moved, but nah, I don't know. Let's not do that right now. Third party. So third party is essentially just Zig FSM, yeah. So Zig FSM is like a MIT licensed finite state machine thing, which can be kind of handy. I've used this in a few places. Like the AI and on the monorail, I think, is also driven by the Zig FSM stuff. But I don't think we'll want to move that there. If someone wants to use Zig FSM, they can just get it from GitHub and include it in the mod folder on the mod source. Timeline events, what's that? Even VS Code seems to be confused about that. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so these are things that can be thrown on a timeline. It's sort of like a sequencer in something like Unreal. You just have a list of things and you want to time them sort of together, sequence them together. So it's really handy for doing things like cinematics and things like that. But I don't think I will necessarily want to put this outside of the game currently. Maybe at some point, but not necessarily right now. A lot of these don't really actually refer to anything like in the game. See here, means. This one actually does means server DB, yeah. So abort mission, we can't really move that easily outside the game. Some of these maybe could. Means game messages. Well, we actually moved these game messages out to means lib, which means that we could move that thing. End game event. Yeah, it doesn't seem to do anything either. It sends a message, but it's actually an engine level message. You already have this available in the mods. Anyway. Yeah, so some of these could maybe be moved to means lib, but yeah. I don't know. Maybe at some point. But yeah, let's keep going a little further. Music player. Sound transform calculator. What's the context actually used for here? Update or tick. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this is like if you want to have like Doppler effects and stuff like that, you need to be able to calculate how a sound is moving through the scene. And so you can slap one of these guys onto like your vehicle, for example. I think that's probably where it's used. Let's see. Yeah, vehicle FX component has one of these guys. Yep. And it calls update or tick, and then it figures it out. Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be moved outside, but let's not do that right now. Sound effect. What's that? I think this is just a helper on top of the raw timbre stuff. Stuff is a little bit experimental, if I remember correctly. So let's not move it yet, but I might want to do that later. Value tracker. That is just some very sort of weird sort of miscellaneous helpers and things. Client server manager. It's almost sort of like a singleton in a sense, but rather than a singleton, it's like a dualton. It has a client instance and a server instance. Movement predictor. Yeah, this is used by the AI, if I remember correctly. Yeah, predicted hazard detector. This is part of the AI system. Could perhaps be moved to the game helper library, but again, not exactly sure about that. And yeah, here's some string. These are just like very completely sort of random things that aren't really grouped under a single sort of subsystem or idea. And then impact FX. Yeah, all of these impact effects and effects in general are so work in progress that I don't think I'm gonna want to necessarily move them anywhere. Okay, so cool. I think we have like most of the stuff that I immediately wanted to move to means lib. So game messages. This is super handy for mods as well, because you can do a whole lot with this. If you just want to add a new gameplay system, then you can both send and receive these and communicate with both like the C++ code and the Zig code. Doesn't matter if you're a WASM mod or not, they just work. And you also have all of the engine level messages. So super handy. Gameplay types. There's gonna be a whole lot more of these when the gameplay gets fleshed out a bit more. Input we already talked about, and then the world. So cool. Okay, I think I'm gonna want to test to make sure that we can actually build this as a DLL. So currently it is built as a WASM module. Let's just make sure that works first of all. Right, we're in this level, but that's fine. We can just use this as normal. And it does seem to be working. And yeah, if we go to the mod manager, we can see that it is in fact a WASM, so a sandboxed mod currently. And we do not allow unsandboxed mods. Okay, well, what if we make it an unsandboxed mod, what would happen? So I'm just navigating here to the mods folder currently. So here we have the like, this is where the mods go. If you want to create a mod for the game, it essentially needs to be put into the mods folder underneath the app data. It's called Trampoline currently because that's a launcher, but it will be like Traction Point / mods for the released game. So here we have Flying Scout, WASM. We can just get rid of that, delete it completely. And now if we go to the Scout, Flying Scout mod, and we set build as WASM, we set that to false. We can also do / or -d build as WASM to false. So like that, and build. And now we're building it as a native library. So now we can see that we got a DLL here instead, and a PDB actually. But a DLL is the important part. And now if we run the game, we should get into some trouble because we're not allowing. So it says status not allowed. Set that to true. It asks you, hey, do I sure want to do that? And you have made changes and restart the game to apply them. So now it's set to restart to load. And now if we look at this, we can see that libtype is native. It's unsandboxed, just native code now. So let's restart. Okay, and now we immediately get into some issues. So let's fix these. Could not get address of Zig function bind localization. Well, isn't that interesting? And why would that be? Yeah, that is because the game currently expects the mod library to refer to this trampoline library. So in fact, what we need to do here, not actually in this, but in the mod workspace, we need to come here to build utils. Oh, actually, it has trampoline. Okay. It has trampoline, but it probably is just a sort of issue here with the actual mod code then. Let's see, main. I think we might need to add this. I'm apparently not even including it. That might be actually be the problem. Let's see if this works. It does seem to work. We just get another one. Flow helper is campaign active. Flow helper functions for trampoline here. Yeah, okay. I don't think we will actually want to have these. So this is something that we actually need to go into C++ and fix. So let's do that and do that as well. We're sort of fixing the mod system here. Like I said, the main delivery functionality or format, main delivery format, main packaging format for a mod that has code will be a WASM module. So this is sort of like perhaps not as important that DLL mods work, but I still want them to work. So if we go to Zig library, should see here. What was the function that we were? It's flow helper is campaign active. Yeah, that's the one that tries to find, and the DLL is not providing that, and then it gets cranky. So trampoline Zig interrupt. It's that thing there, right? Trampoline Zig interrupt bind. Okay. So bind localization. That was the thing that that we got the error for first. And this other stuff we should only really bind if we are binding like a game library, not a mod library. So we add this isMod library here to this function as well. Like this. So if, oh, what? If not mod library, then do all of that binding. We won't be calling it on a mod library anyway. Localization, I'm not 100% sure, but this stuff we for sure don't want. So let's just see. Trampoline Zig interrupt bind. We need to pass that isMod library to it somehow. Bind Zig library types. Right, here we're loading the app library. And then at some point later on, we might be binding the mods, right? Or is this actually, this is always just the app library? Yeah, I'm not actually 100% sure, but I think for now we could just set that to false. It's probably another one of those calls somewhere. Yeah, here we go, mod manager. So mod manager also does the binding for all of these, and here we of course want to set that to true because it is a mod library, just like we do here. True, true. Okay. So a little bit of engine code here. All of a sudden. Whoop! That's not good. That's not good. What are we doing? That's the one I want. Run canvas render callback. What? So it's rendering the UI, and we're rendering a canvas. And something has a callback. Yeah, actually a canvas, a UI canvas has a callback. But we get a crash here. This might actually give us more information if we run it just through normal Visual Studio. I have a feeling. loading screen canvas. Okay. Yeah, I think we have a callback. Run canvas render callback. I wonder if there's just some sort of let's see, loading. Don't remember where that is actually. Loading screen view. Yeah, I don't think the loading screen actually uses any custom code. I think it's all just data. There's the rotating. What is it called? Loading indicator, which is basically all there is. Alright, sorry about that. Had to take care of some family business. Right. So, we have some issues here with the DLL version of this. That might be for a number of reasons. And I'm not quite necessarily set up to figure all of these issues out tonight. Had so many issues overall today with everything from flaky internet connections to build scripts not wanting to go our way, that I think I might just have to figure out some of these things offline, so to speak. So we're crashing inside of the loading screen UI view. The loading screen UI view is a very simple UI view. If you go to what is it, game UI scripts, loading screen view. Yeah, it's essentially just, well, we do have a canvas. Okay, we do have a canvas, and then so there is actually a canvas. Okay. Somehow I missed this. But yeah, we do have a canvas, and it is set to call this render function. And the render function basically just plays an animation, yeah. All right. But somehow that callback gets not set up correctly now. I wonder why that is. So if we don't, okay, one thing that we can try, we have the mods folder here as a settings JSON. We can quite simply make that an empty list in JSON, and we can try to run the game. And we can see here that yes, cool. it does actually run. So what I think is happening here is we are hooking up that to the mod DLL when we really shouldn't be doing that. Right? So let's put that flying scout back. And so what probably happens here is that we are rendering the loading screen, and we have, let's see, we have this thing here, yes, run canvas render callback. So we have now hooked up this function pointer here to both the game and the mod libraries at the same time, and that's not good. I bet that is what is actually happening. So you can find where that is set here. Okay. Yes. Exactly. And that's just global data essentially, right? We're just in goofy zig interrupt.cpp. I actually have a comment here. These are currently global data. If we have more than one library loaded, we need to have one set of these per library. So what we need to do here is, if we are loading a mod library, we just don't set those. Very similarly to what we did here. Actually, I can fix this. I know what the problem is now. So let's add another is mod library boolean here, and this might actually have to go sort of into the sort of standard for how to bind these libraries, that we pass an is mod library to all of them, like so, and that would be that. So let's add a comment here that only bind these when binding the main, i.e. non-mod library. And, you know, see comment above declaration. And that should be that. And now we just need to pass to here. Again, this is the mod library, so true. And then here we pass it as false. So now we're no longer overwriting those valid callbacks set to the main game library with invalid ones for the mod library. And there we go. So now then, look at this. So now we are allowing unsandboxed native mods, and we are loading mod which has the library type set to native unsandboxed. Cool. So now it works again. Yeah, this is stuff that I know that I've broken that some time ago, basically because I changed some things with how mods are loaded when I made the mod manager, but I haven't used native mods for so long that I just haven't seen that. It has probably been a bug for about 2 or 3 weeks. What's interesting here is that there's like a whole lot of blur on this side, on that thruster there, but there's really, oh, there is actually on the other side as well. Okay, but it's kind of, oh, they're only visible from a certain angle, are they? That's interesting. Yeah, look at that. There's some artifacts and everything. What's that about? That's strange. Does that actually occur in the WASM version as well? I don't think I've seen that before. We can actually just get rid of that. Now we have it as WASM. Of course, it's completely fine to load a WASM mod even though you have allowed on sandboxed mods. That way is completely fine, so we don't need to change any settings there. Yeah, that's a strange thing. I don't think I've seen that before. Okay, well, I need to figure out what that is. It should be just a normal material, though. It's supposed to look roughly like this. You have a bit of bloom there. Then the bloom kind of just like goes away. There you can quite clearly see the edge of the bloom. Yeah, not sure what that is about. Oh well. Can we land smoothly? Not particularly. Yeah, these jet engines aren't that powerful, so every now and then you realize that, oh, okay, I have such a high sort of falling speed that I just can't break it. Can't break my fall anymore. And then you just slam into the ground. But okay. Cool. I think we are pretty much done for today. This was a bit of a chaotic stream. I apologize for that. Sometimes that just happens. I wasn't actually planning on streaming this long. I was thinking of just doing a little bit of restructuring, and we did do a little bit of restructuring, so that's neat. But of course there was a lot of just things going wrong there in the beginning, so sometimes that happens. And now I have a weird graphics glitch here to look at. Anyway, I will probably do another stream in a few days. Try to kind of do a little bit more regular streaming these days, as long as I have the voice and some suitable work task to actually do. Not sure how suitable this stuff was today, but it is what it is. No worries, it's always fun. Well, thank you. I hope it was fun. And it did help me actually fix a few issues. And I will get to look at this VOD and see if the streaming settings that I experimented with were good or not. So it served that purpose at least. Anyway, have a good one, folks, and see you around.